Why don't you just make 10 louder and make 10 be the top number and make that a little louder?
These go to 11.
Wait, well, thanks for your time, man. I know I had a little bit of an issue trying to connect, and I had to kind of bail, and then there was some other stuff where you had time, and then I was like, oh, now it doesn't work out. But I'm glad we were able to kind of get this going. So, so it's interesting. I got the record, and you know, I really enjoy it. I mean, tell me a little bit about the band. I know you guys are based out of Atlanta. And
based out of Atlanta. Yep.
Yeah. And how would you describe the band? Because to me, it's more of a, I mean, it has some thrash elements, but definitely darker. Black metal, perhaps. I don't know. How would you describe it to somebody that's not ever heard Cloak?
Yeah, I mean, we definitely confuse people because we do blend so many elements, but I kind of like that about the band. We're not so neatly fit into any, subgenre that people like to place this style of music into, and I think that's a good thing. But yeah, I mean, we obviously spiritually based in the black metal context with the themes, the more spiritual side of our music, but we also have that sort of rock and roll backbone with a lot of groove. There's a lot of more on this album, thrashier riffing, and even some kind of subtle death metal parts, lots of heavy metal with the leads. So we blend a lot of that stuff because we just like all that music, basically. I've always liked, blending different influences, and black and heavy metal are probably my two favorite types of metal music. So I think that shines through the most for Cloak.
Right. So the record, Black Flame Eternal, I think that came out back in May, I believe. And I've seen some of the reviews. I mean, I was just kind of comparing notes, after listening to the record and just reading some of the reviews, and they're pretty spot on. And you've gotten some pretty good reviews out of the thing. So what's your thoughts on that? Or do you even read those things?
I definitely read them. I like to keep up with how the record's going, to be honest. I'm satisfied so far. I mean, we put so much work into this album, and we knew it was a step up for us. I won't lie there. I think we all knew that it was a major, just a major step up for the band as far as sound, even image, artwork, just how everything came across as a package, the music videos and everything. So yeah, I mean, it's been really good to see all the positive reviews. I've only seen a handful of negative ones. That's always going to come with any album. And that's typically just people's personal preference. They don't really look at it from an objective point of view. So it's been nice. We got our first magazine cover for
I saw that. Yeah.
Magazine. Yeah. So that's a another goal achieved there. I got a good review in Decibel, all the major websites, Metal Sucks, Metal Injection, all that stuff. So it's been really, really nice to see.
Now, how much of a fan are you of like the band Enslaved and like Creator? Because I mean, I hear a little bit of a mix of that stuff in there as far as an influence. I probably totally off the mark, but I don't know.
No, I would say Sean and Max are pretty big Enslaved fans, our drummer and guitarist. I like some of it. I never got heavily into them. I'm a big Creator fan. I like Coma of Souls a lot. I like Aggression a lot. Just saw them on the tour with Merciful Fate last year.
Yeah. Oh, lucky you, man. That was must have been a blast.
Yeah, it was a great show. I love old 80s thrash. Creator especially. It's a great German band. I could see how those elements shine through though. I wouldn't say directly influenced, but
sure. But you can hear a little bit of it. At least I could anyways, or that's my perception. Because like you said, people's perceptions are a little bit different. One of the things that I do hear, and I think this goes back to what you were talking about, some of the rock and the thrash, is that there is this melodic element to the band, at least on this record, more so. Has that been just something that you ultimately want to move towards, or did that just happen for this particular record?
I'd say the melodic element has been there from the start, honestly. Maybe it shines through differently on this one because it's faster, more tremolo riffing, maybe. But no, I think the melody is something that we've always aimed for because I like songs that you can remember and that you can always go back to. So we're a band that has a lot of melody, and we have big choruses. That is sort of a rare thing in, the black metal genre. I like all that stuff. I like having more anthemic songs.
And I think maybe that'll bring in some of the fans that maybe aren't into traditional, black metal, I think, because I think I see it different as far as this record. At least that's my perception, that there's more melody, which is good, and it kind of drew me more into what you guys are all about.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that I've, just seen comments or in person that have said, I'm not really that into black metal, but I'm into you guys. And that's because I think we present something a bit different when it comes to the genre. And we're not so monotone the whole time. It's not blasting the entire time. And I think it's, again, songs you can go back to and remember. And they have that anthemic feel of heavy metal, basically, like a band like Iron Maiden or Judas Priest, Metallica, and stuff.
What's interesting is throughout the years, because I discovered black metal through like Venom, and they had this kind of a dark image at the time. Now it seems kind of goofy. I mean, it's still kind of cool in its own way.
Yeah,
but it seems like what they were doing back then in the 80s seems relatively tame compared to some of the black metal acts these days. I mean, what's your thoughts on the whole evolution of the genre and subgenre?
Well, I actually got into black metal. Venom was the first black metal band that I heard because Metallica referenced them. And then any punk bands I was listening to at the time even referenced them. And to me, it was like, oh, this sounds like a drunk Motorhead. So this is awesome.
Yeah, right.
I bought the album Black Metal when I was in high school. And then I went from there. I basically went in order. I went, to Bathory.
Oh, nice.
And then I went to Dissection from there. So I went first wave to second wave and then to third wave bands like Watain and bands like that. So yeah, I basically went in order. So that, I view the evolution of black metal just as how I got into it. And I think it's a perfect natural progression. It's an extreme music that by default has extreme artists attached to it. So, all the stories you hear, all the lore, all the mythology behind it is just something that's a part of the genre. And I think it's just a natural thing when you have a genre like this that are dealing with the things that this type of music deal with.
I mean, I know you mentioned punk, so obviously that's also something that you got into back in your earlier days and stuff. Yeah. How did that? Why not? Did you ever perform in a punk band and then do the metal thing, or has punk just been an influence on what you do?
No, I started playing in punk. So I played in the punk bands from 13 to about 23, 24. So punk was my main thing for a long time. I got into metal while I was still, a punk.
Okay.
Bands like, the first 3-4 Slayer records were huge for me. That was basically my transition. Metallica, Kill 'Em All. So you put Metallica, Kill 'Em All, and Slayer, Show No Mercy in the hodgepodge of music I was already listening to, and it fit perfectly. It was fast and nasty, aggressive. It had almost lo-fi production compared to their later stuff. So, and Venom, like I said, Motorhead. Right. So those are my bands. I was always into the classic bands like that. Even when I listened to punk, it was bands like Discharge and GBH and Partisans and a lot of the UK 82, Crass, Conflict, all that stuff. Mixed with like modern street punk. So it's just like I am today. I love Metallica, Megadeth, Slayer, Creator, but then I also love modern bands like, tons of modern bands. So, too many to name, but I'm always keeping up with music like that. So yeah, to answer your question, no, punk was my first genre of my first love really. And that's what I grew up playing.
So for you, I mean, did punk kind of well, Motorhead seemed to be like kind of the go-between band. People were into punk, they were into Motorhead, which then opened the door for maybe thrash or metal and stuff. Was that the same for you, or what was the gateway band there? It sounds like Metallica was one.
Metallica, because they were the first band that I like, the first heavy band when I was a youngster, like really young, 4 or 5. My brother had the
Mm.
Black Album and Master of Puppets on CD floating around the house, so I would pop those in sometimes. And Black Album was huge. It was still playing on the radio all throughout the '90s when I was a kid. So them, but I would say, yeah, that the actual transition where I leaned more into thrash was Metallica and Slayer, and Motorhead, but mostly Metallica and Slayer. I fell in love with Rain and Blood when I bought that, and then I went back and got Show No Mercy. Love that album, one of my favorite albums. Hell Awaits, all that shit. Everything up to Seasons, I love.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, Metallica, Kill 'Em All, and then I went in order. I went back, bought Ride the Lightning, Master of Puppets, which is my favorite.
Right.
So yeah, I love all that stuff, and I still do. I listen to it frequently. So it was a natural progression for me, for sure. But yeah, I always liked the imagery of everything too, the
Yeah.
aesthetic. You know, I was a spiky hair, dyed hair,
Oh,
studs,
geez.
punk
Totally
kid.
in, huh?
Oh
Totally into
yeah,
it. Yeah.
yeah. I got old pictures that people have seen probably. But then as a metalhead, I was still into that shit, bullet belts and leather and
Hmm.
all that, the studs and everything, and fire, that all comes across in our stage show. So I'm still into the aesthetic of everything. And that always attracted me as a kid.
What I find cool is that you discovered a band and then you go and pick up the music in sequence, in order
Definitely.
as it was released. That's pretty cool, because I know sometimes people bounce around, like they discovered Metallica with the Black Album, and
Right.
then they may just go back to Injustice and then pick up anything that comes thereafter, and then go back and listen to the classic stuff. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I was always into following the sequence, like going in order. Even when
Hmm.
blog spots and downloading came
Oh,
about,
yeah.
I always started at the band's demo. I would
Hmm.
go on
Oh,
Discogs
nice.
and figure out, okay, I would get into Satyricon. Okay, let's get their demo and then go in order.
Yeah.
And that almost, in a way, was, I would stop at a certain point, and then later in life I figured out, oh, they have all this other material from the
Hmm.
2000s and their mid-career that is great. So I would almost like rediscover that stuff,
Right.
because I only knew Satyricon's first couple albums, and then I went back to their more like, when they introduced a lot more groove and rock in the 2000s, and I
Hmm.
was like, oh, this stuff rules too. So yeah, it's cool to almost, there's tons of bands that even I'll get into that are like classic bands that I just kind of miss, that I got into a bit later,
Hmm.
like, that you discover there's never really a bad time to get into
Right.
certain bands. So you can be an adult and realize, oh, I totally missed the train on this. So this band's awesome too. There's
Yeah.
so much music to discover.
Yeah. That's a great example, Satyricon. I mean, you have the different kind of the evolution of the band, and they introduce different stuff, like you mentioned, the more of the groove stuff in there. I mean,
Definitely.
I know sometimes there was a backlash going, oh, they changed too much, and which I'm guessing you yourself have even experienced. Maybe some people think it's your band's too melodic now, some of the
Right.
diehards, but I
Yeah, that
mean, I think.
happens.
But I think
Yeah.
bands need to evolve, right? I mean, I think the only bands that can get away with that are like the Ramones, AC/DC, and Motorhead.
Yeah. Yeah. You
Other
know
than
where you're
that,
gonna get when you buy a Motorhead
right,
record. Yeah.
right. So,
Um,
I'll go
Definitely.
ahead.
Yeah, there's sometimes there's comments that are saying, oh, I
Mhm.
liked their first album better than this, or I like their second album. But
Right.
most people, I think, like where the band went on the third album.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that you guys made too much of a leap, right? I mean, what I'm hearing is more melody, but that's just my opinion. But
Yeah.
I don't think you guys made so much of a dramatic leap that you're gonna alienate the core base.
No, if anything, we went more. Yeah, I mean, we went more aggressive on each record. Honestly, we
Hmm.
didn't soften on each one. So, yeah, I think that says a lot right there.
Yeah. Right. What about vocally? I mean, who are your influences vocally? I know we talked a little bit about the bands you were in, you know, the punk, the black metal, and some of the
Yeah.
thrash acts. But what about vocally? Who are people that, you know, influence you as a vocalist?
It's hard to say because I feel like I sort of came into my own over the years in Cloak, but
Hmm.
yeah, I was listening to a lot of like Dimmu Borgir on this last album, and I like the way that Shagrat enunciated some words. So
Hmm.
that probably subconsciously had an effect on some of my vocals. Dissection, obviously, but I don't really feel like I sound like either of those guys.
Hmm.
Speaking of Satyricon, I always like the way that you can decipher what he's saying, and I feel like you
Right.
can do that with mine as well.
Hmm.
So maybe that sticks out a little bit in my head when I'm doing my vocals. But no, honestly, no one in particular. I mean, vocalists that I love are Glenn Danzig, James
Oh,
Hetfield.
wow. Yeah.
Um, let's see. There's so many. I can't really think of right now, but yeah, I
Sure.
mean, you know, Bruce Dickinson and
Oh, yeah.
Rob Halford, but none of those vocals really sound like mine. But I just
Sure.
vocalists that are super inspiring because they can actually hit certain notes that a lot of people can't. So, but yeah, I think I kind of just am influenced on by how I can do what I need to do in the best way that I can, because everyone's
Hmm.
voice is going to be a bit different. And I
Right.
think my vocals are pretty different for this genre.
Hmm.
They're still in the same vein as, the gurgly kind of dirty
Right.
vocals, but I
Yeah.
think you can, they're more on top of the music. And I think you can decipher what I'm saying a little bit better.
Sure.
And there's more urgency to each line.
Yeah. And what do you do to prep, you know, either pre-gig, and then do you do anything after the gig? Because I know, you know, like you said, you know, most people that aren't familiar with the genre might go, well, you know, they're not really singing like a Dickinson or a Halford, right? But
Yeah.
is what do you do to take care before or after a gig?
Well, the older I get, I have started to do vocal warm-ups just on, there's YouTube videos that you can follow,
Hmm.
5 to 10 minutes.
Mm.
And I really try to warm up the voice. I did that a lot on the last record as well before I got in the booth. That's all I really do. If there's tea available, I'll do that. But I don't really do a cool down after the show. I just try to not
Mm.
talk too much because the
Okay.
venue's so loud and you need to talk to your bandmates about, clearing the stage or
Sure.
whatever. You try not to scream. But yeah, no, I've gotten more into vocal warm-ups basically the older I've gotten. I used to, and some nights I can't. You're so rushed, you just got to get up there. And I think the best thing to do is not push it so hard on the first couple songs and let it
Oh,
warm up naturally yourself.
sure.
But I've developed techniques to where I'm not just belting it out so much that I'm losing my voice.
Hmm.
I've noticed the more time I go without singing,
Mm.
when I get back to it is the most strain, because it's like any other muscle. If you take a
Hmm.
break from working out and then you lift immediately, you're going to get really sore. But
Right.
if you are consistently working out, you're used to it. Your muscles are not going to get as sore the next day. So it's like that with the throat as well and with the vocal cords.
Right. Nice. It seems to me like Cloak is really, I mean, obviously American band, but it seems like you probably have a pretty decent following in Europe. Have you taken it to Europe yet? And if so, what's that been like? If not, you know, when is that going to happen, do you think?
Well, I just got an email this morning because we just signed on with a new European agent. Hopefully, in a year, we'll get over there. So we actually haven't been there yet. I think
Hmm.
we would do very well over there, and I know we
Right.
have commenting all the time, telling us to get over there. Unfortunately, it's just taken us a bit longer than some bands because I think on our second record, we put it out right before the pandemic. So
Hmm.
I'm sure we would have gotten some opportunities to get over there during 2020 had it been a normal year, but it, clearly wasn't. So everything has been pushed back. It's basically been pushed back 2 years. Any sort of touring, any sort of opportunities that we would get to go over there has been pushed back. So I would say by 2024, definitely
Hmm.
we'll get over there, and
Yeah.
super excited to do that.
Yeah.
I don't know exactly what it is yet, but
Well, I mean, the way I see it is you guys would slot in great, even in some of those side stages at like festivals or whatever. I mean, what a hell of a way to kind of expand the base there.
definitely. And that's what we're talking about, getting on some festivals and then doing tours around that basically.
Yeah. Nice. Well,
Yeah, we're getting to Mexico in a month, so that should be interesting as well.
oh, have you been? Have you been?
Nope. First
Okay.
first time there,
Nice.
playing there. So we got 5 dates there, and then we have one date in Puerto Rico the week before. So that should be
Oh, wow.
interesting and a good time for sure.
Now, is that something where you're thinking what you're going to fit into the set, or are you just going to go with anything that you would do, like maybe in North America?
It'll be a little bit of a longer set than what we're going to do on our North America tour, just because we're headlining. Like this will be a headlining tour in Mexico and Puerto Rico, but when we're doing this tour coming up in September in North America with Uada and Ghost Bath, we're first of three, so we're the openers basically.
Oh,
so we
wow.
got to do a little bit of
Yeah.
a shorter set there. So it's basically 30 minutes compared to like a 45-minute set.
Oh, yeah, because I saw you guys are coming to the I think the Crystal Ballroom in Portland.
Yeah.
What a nice venue that is. I mean, I think you're gonna love it. But
Awesome.
okay,
Yeah.
so yeah,
The
so that's
festival.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Like
wow.
Earth Day Fest or whatever.
Yeah, right,
Yeah.
right. So okay, cool. And that runs, when does that start and when does that end, that North American run that you guys are gonna be doing?
End of August into early October. So it's a pretty long one for us. It's about
Yeah.
5.5 weeks. Yeah.
Has that been the longest you've done, or have you done something similar in length?
We've done like a 25, 23, 25 day, but this is 5.5 weeks is definitely the longest that I've ever done. So should be
Right.
interesting.
Well, especially for a black metal band in North America, right? I mean, it seems like, even hard rock acts anymore only do like 3 weeks or something, so that's pretty good.
Yeah, a lot of bands don't really do 5 to 6 week tours anymore. It's kind of usually capped at 4, like about a month. But we had to add some dates to get out and to come back because it, of course, starts in Denver and ends in Hollywood. So we're from Atlanta. That's quite a long ways to start
right.
and end. But is what it is. So we had to add 3 dates out, and then we'll do a couple back to get home. That will be
So
Friday.
how many? Yeah, no kidding. I mean, you're going to need a break, but it ends in October, so you probably have like what? Do you have anything going on towards the tail end of the year, or is that kind of you shut things down and resume in 24?
Probably, yeah. We have, I think, one thing coming up after that we are working on, and then it'll just be like a fest thing, not really a tour, but working on that. But no, nothing planned in October or November, which is good because those are my favorite months to be home. Is I love the fall.
Nice.
It's a time of contemplation and when the seasons change, and it's just sort of important for me to kind of be home during that time. But yeah, it'll be cool coming home right when October starts. My favorite time of the year.
Is there a particular dream band that you would like to support or tour with?
Probably Danzig.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. He's one of our favorite artists of all time. So I grew up on Misfits and Sam Hain, and then of course the Danzig band. So yeah, I would say him.
Was there a particular point, kind of like with the Danzig, the band, that you kind of, this is kind of the line, and then anything else you checked out but weren't really into?
Well, it's funny you say that. Of course, the first 4 albums are the best.
Oh yeah,
extremely peak albums for that band. But in recent months, I've been going back to. There's a couple podcasts I listen to that cover his later like '90s stuff and 2000 stuff, and I gotta say, Danzig 7 is actually a pretty good album. Death Red Sabbath has some good songs. Danzig 6 is hit or miss, but it has some cool songs. And fun fact, the guy who mixed our record actually mixed Danzig 6. So, and then he actually produced, engineered, and mixed the last like 7 to 8 Motorhead records before Let Me Die.
Oh, was that
Cameron Webb?
Yeah, Cameron Webb. Really, there you go. Okay.
Really saved the record on that mix. He did a great job. Yeah, I would definitely work with him again. Yeah, he's worked on tons. He has tons of stories of really cool bands he's worked with. But yeah, of course,
Mhm.
Motorhead and Danzig is really awesome to hear. Yeah, I mean, I would say that 5 is the drop off point. It's a
Right.
very strange album, and that was a time where music changed overnight with the
Mhm.
industrial and the new metal thing, and he tried to go and Nine Inch Nails style on that record, and some people like it. It didn't quite work for me, but I
Right.
would say he kind of made a comeback with 6 and 7.
Mm.
But yeah, I mean, it's so hard to beat anything
Yeah.
after, especially 3, which is
Oh
probably
yeah.
their peak as a band. But I love Danzig 4. So those first 4 are
Yeah, I
definitely
agree
classic.
with you. I mean, those first four, oh my God. I mean,
Yeah,
that
some of the
first
best.
that debut record, I think I can pick up anytime, stick it in, and it's always, I never hit stop on the thing. I have to
It's the
listen the whole
best.
thing. So
So good. Yeah.
yeah. So okay. Just a couple more things and I'll cut you loose. Thank you for your time. I keep looking at your Deicide shirt, man.
Oh
Glenn's one
yeah.
of the nicest guys.
Oh, Glenn.
Yeah,
Awesome.
yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah,
actually was watching. I've been in a weird deicide phase lately. Of course, I'm wearing the shirt today, but I just
yeah.
picked up the cassette box set, and it
Oh,
comes with the Eamon demos and then the first 3
okay.
albums, and beautiful booklet,
Oh
tons
wow.
of photos. It comes with a patch and a box, so it's all in a box set, of course, and it's really really cool. So I was watching a ton of old deicide interviews
Mhm.
and footage last night, and then I watched that Dancing with the Devil documentary where,
Oh, right.
remember the Satanic Panic stuff where they go
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
courtroom with Dee Snider and Judas Priest, and then it has all
Hmm.
those old Glenn Benton interviews on them.
Right.
Yeah, so I love watching all that stuff. But yeah, I've been in sort of a deep side phase lately, especially that I love Once Upon a Cross and that first album especially.
Right. Nice. So I was going to ask you a couple more things, and like I said, I'll cut you loose. And thanks for
No
doing
problem.
this. I'm glad we
Thanks
were
for
able to
having me.
connect. But all right, so you got the tour coming up late August. You're probably figuring out the set if you haven't already. Can you give us at least one or two songs from the new record that are going to make the set?
Sure. Ethereal Fire and
Oh,
with Fury and Allegiance will definitely be on both tours. And then a song that you'll catch just in Mexico and Puerto Rico, since we have longer slot there, is
hmm.
Invictus. But
Okay.
yeah, so mostly new songs. The set comprises of new songs mostly. So yeah, I think those songs are
Hmm.
the best way to present the album live, and we like playing the new songs better live. I think it comes across as
Hmm.
a much more big and epic than some of the older stuff live. So yep.
That's great. I mean, I'm glad you're doing in a supporting role, when you said you're going to get 30 minutes, sometimes, you're into a band, they
Yeah.
get 30 minutes, which is 5, 6 songs, and they only do one new song,
Yeah.
and that's kind of a bummer, especially if you're into the act. But
Yeah,
it's
we
great that
want to
you're
do
doing
most of
3.
it. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
30-minute slot for the opening. So
Yeah.
we really want to present this album the most because we feel like it's our strongest.
Nice. Well, I got one last question, and I know you mentioned Metallica, but probably the most important question: favorite thrash band that is not Metallica.
I would say Slayer, the
Mm.
ultimate. Yeah, Slayer for sure.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
that's awesome. Now, you can't go wrong with Slayer either. I mean,
Yeah.
you got a great taste in tunes, I got to say.
Thanks. Yeah, Slayer. I mean, Rain and Blood is the best thrash album of all time. It's just
Oh yeah.
so amazing. Yeah, Slayer for sure.
Yeah. Oh, and I'm with you. I think you mentioned something about after seasons. I think that the albums that got to that point, it was just kind of like then there was a
Yeah,
little bit of a drag as far as the material. Some stuff was kind of spotty, but
a little bit.
yeah,
Yeah.
no, I mean, I think you're right on. Hey, man. Thank you for your time. It was a blast, and
No problem.
have a great tour. Great run here in Mexico, and I think Puerto Rico. You said you guys were going to do some shows, so I
Yeah.
can't wait to see some of the footage because it's going to wind up on YouTube.
Yeah. Yeah. Hopefully. Yeah, man. I
Yeah,
appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
yeah. Thank you for your time, and we'll plug the record, we'll plug the tour, and plug the band, and we'll get links to everybody. All right.
Yeah, I'll be sure to share it. Thanks.
All right. Take care, man.
You too. Bye.
Yep. Bye.